10. Basilosaurus, king of the lizards. The Basilosaurus was a terrifying creature with sharp teeth and a mouth so big it could swallow you without even knowing it. The beast is now extinct, and most would be pretty happy about that. The creature lived between 40 and 35 million years ago and could grow to be over 60 feet or 18 meters in length. Its name translates to king lizard, but the animal was not actually a lizard. Instead, it was a savage, predatory whale. The first fossil of this great and ancient beast was discovered in Alabama. Scientists at first thought it was some kind of aquatic reptile, but they were slightly confused because it came from a more recent time when mammals ruled the earth. It wasn't for a while until they realized it was actually a whale, but one unlike anything lurking in the oceans alive today. Unfortunately, scientists still don't know everything about the Basilosaurus. Some of its body parts weren't preserved long enough for scientists to find them. Usually, nothing at all is left of an animal that's been dead millions and millions of years. Scientists do know it was the largest meat-eater during its time on Earth. It probably went extinct due to climate change, and that's about it. We haven't collected enough fossils yet to learn more about the great king lizard. 9. Opabinia, Cambrian freak show. The Opabinia is one of the strangest creatures that ever lived. It was really tiny, no larger than a shrimp. But it had 5 eyes bulging out of its face, with a mouth on the underside of its body facing backwards. The lobes that came out from the sides of the Opabinia were quite flat and projected in a downwards angle. The lobes also overlapped with one another, with the rear edge placed over the top of the front edge with the lobe behind it. Markings on these lobes are believed to be gills and are present on all but strangely not the first lobes on either side. However, these gills have also been interpreted to being on both either the top or lower sides of the lobes. If the gills were underneath, they would have been protected from above. However, if the gills were on the top of the lobe, they would have been protected from below as well, having a greater exposure to the flow of ocean water due to the overlapping arrangement. All its features seem to be in the wrong place, causing a freak show from the Cambrian era, unlike any other weird critter living in the oceans today. The fossils of the Opabinia were discovered in British Columbia, and the creature flourished about 500 million years ago. It was only 3 inches long but was a voracious carnivore. It would have used its proboscis to search for creatures on the dusty seafloor and shove them into its backwards mouth. As for what kind of animal it was, scientists agree the Opabinia was probably an ancestor of arthropods, or that it was at least related to the ancient ancestors of arthropods. Perhaps with its closest living relative being the velvet worm, another disgusting and very weird-looking creature. Proganochelys, the first turtle. The Proganochelys may be the oldest turtle ever, with fossils dating back to the Permian epoch around 298 million years ago. It was first discovered and named by Georg Bohr in the year 1887. Researchers say it was about 3 feet or 1 meter long and had some very primitive features not found in very many other turtle specimens. For example, it had teeth. Turtles typically don't have teeth. But these weren't even normal teeth. They were located on the roof of the turtle's mouth instead of on its jaws. Even though this is one of the most primitive turtles ever to be found, much debate is still going on about where turtles came from even before. Some claim turtles evolved from the same group as dinosaurs and crocodiles. Others say turtles came from a group of lizards, and a third theory suggests turtles came from a group of creatures known as anapsids, which were strange animals, utterly terrifying, looking like turtles mixed with armadillos mixed with dinosaurs. We wonder if these turtles would have been as calm as some of the peaceful ones we know and love today, or aggressive because of the way they looked. 7. Tully monster, the weirdest animal ever. The Tully monster almost looked like a swimming slug with a very long lobster claw growing out of its non-existent face. That's how weird this animal was. Can you picture it? Scientists have recently uncovered the truth about this bizarre creature though, which they previously thought was some kind of strange worm. They now know that the Tully monster was a type of fish with no jaw known as a lamprey. What's really funny is that scientists have been trying to figure out the origins of the Tully monster, which lived 300 million years ago, for the past half-century. The fossils of the Tully monster were found in northern Illinois. According to Victoria McCoy, who conducted the study of the Tully monster while at Yale University, it should be ranked at the top of the scale in weirdness. It had a body shaped like a torpedo and a nose like a trunk that ended in a claw. Paleontologist James Lansdell of the American Museum of Natural History in New York said, "I've always loved detective work, and in paleontology it doesn't get much better than this. Our restudy of the specimens has shown that it is a very strange lamprey, a group of eel-like vertebrates that live in rivers and seas today." One more time, imagine a fish with an arm growing out of it that is just about as long as its body, with a tiny pincer claw at the end. That's what the Tully monster looked like. It even had eyes set on either end of a bar-like structure that stretched across its back. It was about 14 inches or 36 centimeters long and had a single dorsal fin. It was basically the weirdest prehistoric fish ever. What do you think is the most bizarre creature that's still alive today? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. 6. Short-faced bear, the largest bear. In North America during the last ice age, the most powerful land carnivore was the short-faced bear. It weighed a whopping 1,500 pounds or 683 kilos. It was taller than the modern grizzly bear, and it had much longer limbs. In other words, it was a much more efficient killing machine. Oh, and it also had a short face, hence where it got its name. The largest skull of the bear was found by a gold miner in the Yukon, dating back to around 20,000 years ago. The short-faced bear lived all throughout North America, all the way from Mexico to Alaska. They would have acted as a solitary predator and part-time scavenger, wandering through the forest eating whatever it found. What's really cool is that the short-faced bear went extinct not too long ago. The last one probably died out around 11,000 years before today, beaten at its own game by the rise of the grizzly bear, which migrated to North America from Eurasia. This was a time when all the largest predators were being beaten out by smaller, more versatile animals. 5. Archaeotherium, pig from hell. The Archaeotherium was a kind of entelodont. Entelodonts are the ancestors of modern cattle and sheep, and they lived in the floodplains of ancient Colorado, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska between 37 and 23 million years ago. The Archaeotherium is popularly known as the pig from hell. That is because it was a massive creature of around 6 feet or 1.8 meters in length, with a skull that took up half its body and long jaws that it used to rip apart unsuspecting prey. It also may have had tusks that it used to dig roots and other plants out of the ground. It may have feasted on ancient camels, as bones belonging to one such creature were discovered crushed in Wyoming, probably from the strong teeth of the hell pig. Yikes! Oddly enough, even though it's referred to as the pig from hell, the Archaeotherium is more closely related to whales and hippos. According to a study done in 2008 and 2009, it probably wasn't even closely related to modern pigs. These animals were also highly aggressive based on skull injuries found in almost all specimens, suggesting they fought with each other frequently. 4. Hatzegopteryx, winged death. In the United Kingdom, the fossil of a giant prehistoric creature was discovered stuck in cliffs on the Isle of Wight. This creature, known as the Hatzegopteryx, had a wingspan of around 20 feet and lived 125 million years ago. According to paleontologists, it was probably one of the biggest species that ever flew in the skies of our planet. It was a hunting predator that weighed 650 pounds or 295 kilos and had elongated jaws that it used to catch and eat prey. The sheer size of the beast has baffled scientists for years because they seem way too heavy to fly. To give you an example of just how large this flying nightmare was, the bald eagle only reaches a maximum of 14 pounds. That's 14 pounds or 6.3 kilos versus 650. The Hatzegopteryx was so big that researchers had to use computerized models to figure out how it managed to even stay airborne. They deduced that the monster used its huge and very powerful legs, along with its wing muscles, to literally catapult itself into the air, at which point it flew like an aeroplane through the skies and snatched up anything it wanted to eat. And in case you're wondering, this animal was indeed a type of pterosaur. Scientists believe it may have been one of the earliest of its kind to reach such gigantic proportions. And unlike birds that waddle around on 2 legs, pterosaurs like this would have 4 legs that they could scuttle around on the ground with, just being generally terrifying. 3. Mosasaurus, rulers of the sea. The Mosasaurus was arguably the most ferocious predator that lived in the oceans during the Cretaceous. Between 145 and 65.5 million years ago, dinosaurs dominated the land, and the Mosasaurus dominated the seas. It had a long tail and limbs like paddles that it used to cruise easily through the water, devouring all in its path with sharp teeth and massive jaws. You would not want to get in the way of a Mosasaurus. There were actually a lot of different types of mosasaurs, with the Mosasaurus being just one genus. There were several different kinds, all of them savage monsters that ruled the oceans. And no, they weren't marine dinosaurs. Instead, they were dangerous reptiles closely related to the snakes and lizards of today. According to the Philip J. Curry Dinosaur Museum, the Jurassic Park movie showed a Tylosaurus mosasaur, which was the largest mosasaur to exist. In real life, it probably only grew up to 50 feet or 15 meters in length. And while it's hard to figure out the exact size of the mosasaur in the Hollywood blockbuster movie, it's conservatively somewhere around 100 feet or 30 meters in length, which is at least twice its real-life size. But just like the dinosaurs, mosasaurs went extinct 65.5 million years ago thanks to the asteroid that wiped everyone out. 2. Godzilla shark, prehistoric reptilian. Paleontologists working with the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science found the fossil of a beast in 2013 that they called Godzilla. This monster was some kind of prehistoric shark that grew to be over 7 feet or 2.1 meters long, which made the name Godzilla quite fitting. The beast also had some very unusual features, such as 12 rows of sharp teeth in its mouth and 2 rows of spines on its back. It took 7 years for researchers to catalog the different characteristics of the Godzilla shark. What they found is it's the biggest shark ever discovered in New Mexico from around 390 million years ago, at the time when a family of sharks known as ctenocanths, which Godzilla belonged to, broke off from modern sharks. The biggest difference between these 2 families of sharks is the size of their jaws. Ctenocanths had huge and more rigid jaws that they used to crush prey into mush. It's pretty rare to find actual skeletal material of ancient sharks, let alone a complete skeleton that also preserved the body outline and other soft tissue impressions. So yeah, Godzilla is pretty cool. 1. Deinotherium, terrible beast. The Deinotherium was a massive animal that looked a lot like an elephant and lived throughout Africa, Europe, and Central Asia. They are believed to be the largest elephants that ever walked the earth, even bigger than the African elephants of today. Unlike modern elephants, these creatures had very long legs, flat foreheads, and shorter trunks. They also had tusks that curved inwards from the bottom of their jaws. This is basically the opposite of modern elephants, and they probably used these backward tusks for stripping tree branches of their vegetation. The first Deinotherium diverged off the evolutionary tree from normal elephants about 28 million years ago. This probably happened in Ethiopia. At the time, the animals were pretty small, only around 6.6 feet or 2 meters tall, but eventually they would grow to be over 13 feet or nearly 4 meters tall and weighing over 29,000 pounds. That's 13,000 kilos. The last of these enormous beasts died out about 1 million years ago in Kenya, suggesting that some of the earliest hominids may have even interacted with this prehistoric animal. 10. Great white shark. A diver that was exploring off the coast of Florida had a very spooky encounter with a massive great white shark. He actually captured the encounter on video using the underwater camera attached to his head. Jimmy Roseman was swimming in the murky waters of Vero Beach when he realized a great white shark was circling him. According to what Roseman told local TV news, the shark kept a distance of no less than 7 feet or 2.1 meters during the encounter. It was absolutely terrifying, especially since the great white shark can grow to be over 20 feet or 6 meters long and over 5,000 pounds or around 2,200 kilos heavy, with 7 rows of over 300 extremely sharp teeth. If you've seen Jaws the movie, it's pretty likely you have some kind of fear of sharks, specifically giant ones that are circling you. Attacks are relatively uncommon, but when they happen, well, they're usually fatal. Humans are seriously no match for these apex predators. This is one of those times that the diver got off lucky. He was insanely fortunate that he had his spear gun with him, and when he poked the shark with the sharp end of the gun, it swam away. But if he hadn't had that gun with him, or the good sense to defend himself, there's no telling what the giant shark would have done. 9. Dangerous dolphins. A British girl has been attacked by dolphins. Yes, dolphins. Dolphins may be the jokers of the sea, but they apparently have a very dark side to them not many people know about, or even want to fathom. This British girl was only 10 years old when she went to Dolphin Discovery in Cancun with her family to get the full swimming with dolphins experience. The experience happened in a closed-off part of the sea in which the dolphins are kept captive. Basically, the dolphins here are prisoners, and just like any other prisoner, they probably don't enjoy being harassed. When the girl got into the sea pen with the animals, they turned on her in seconds. The child's mother watched helplessly as the dolphins dragged the girl underwater and started biting her. The girl survived the incident, though she was left with lacerations, bruises, and teeth marks from the angry dolphins. Nobody knows why they attacked this child unprovoked. Maybe they thought it was funny, or maybe they thought she was one of their captors. A lot of tourist venues sell close contact interactions with dolphins with the promise of a magical moment with the creatures. Animal-loving visitors book these experiences with good intentions for their friends and family and don't realize the hidden risk and cruelty that these businesses are profiting from. Luckily, this little girl ended up okay, but she'll probably be afraid of dolphins for the rest of her life. 8. Stingray stay away. Even though everybody says stingrays aren't aggressive or dangerous, an awful lot of people will disagree, as there have been quite a handful of people killed by them recently. Australian conservationist and beloved personality Steve Irwin was killed by one in 2006, and another Australian man was just murdered by another stingray in Tasmania. The guy had been swimming at Lauderdale Beach when the incident occurred. It's not exactly clear what this guy was doing in the water other than swimming, as he wasn't in the best of shape to answer questions after the attack. These creatures can get pretty big. They can be over 7.5 feet or 2.2 meters long from their heads to the tip of their tail, and they can weigh 700 pounds or 320 kilos. However, they usually only sting for self-defense purposes, so maybe the stingray thought it was in trouble and that's why it stung him. The official statement was that he had inflicted wounds probably by a marine animal, but the local media and animal experts did say his wound was consistent with a stingray attack. According to the BBC, after he suffered a puncture to his lower abdomen, the man went into cardiac arrest and sadly he died. He was only 42 years old at the time. 7. Hungry hippo. A woman from Tampa Bay named Kristen Yaldor survived an attack from the most dangerous animal in all of Africa back in 2018. She was just living her best life, enjoying a vacation with her husband in Zimbabwe, celebrating her upcoming birthday. This particular day started off like any other on an African vacation, but it was also Kristen's special day. She and her husband set off for some nature photography near Victoria Falls. They were going on a river tour and both of them were really excited. Just as they began to snap gorgeous photos, the guide ordered them to quickly paddle back to shore. That's because he spotted a hippopotamus, the animal that kills more humans in Africa every year than carnivores and predators. Unfortunately for Kristen, she didn't get out of the water fast enough. The hippo smashed into her boat, knocked her into the river, then bit her right leg and dragged her underwater. Luckily, she was an experienced scuba diver. She knew to hold her breath and not panic. Kristen was smart enough to stick her hands into the hippo's mouth, startling the big animal. With its grip loose on her legs, she swam back to shore and out of danger. But the fun wasn't over. Kristen was in bad shape. Her leg was definitely broken and she was bleeding pretty badly. She had to be airlifted to a hospital, and she then spent the next few weeks in and out of hospitals and surgeries as she recovered from the deadly bite. Now she's back home and doing just fine. That's one epic birthday for the books. Have you ever been on a river tour and seen a hippo? Tell us about your experience in the comments section below. And if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. 6. Angry orcas. Not all of the most terrifying underwater encounters are strictly human. It turns out great white sharks are just as prone to having nightmarish encounters with sea animals as humans. Autopsies done on 6 great white shark bodies that washed up on the South African coast have shown that orca whales, also known as killer whales, are targeting sharks and purposefully eating their livers and hearts. Yikes! Marine biologist Alison Towner helped to perform the autopsies, later describing her findings on Shark Talk. She claims that the orca whales are physically ripping open the sharks just below their throats with expert precision, allowing the organs to slip out from inside and be gobbled up by the whales. While this doesn't exactly have anything to do with people, it's pretty terrifying for the poor great white sharks who are just swimming around trying to eat people having a relaxing day at the beach. But hey, now the sharks know what it feels like to be hunted. Who knew killer whales and great white sharks had such turmoil between them? I wonder who started it. I am here for the drama. 5. Killed by a gator. In South Carolina, a woman has died after a rather silly encounter with an alligator. The entire thing was, well, her very own fault. The death happened on Kiowa Island after the woman tried to touch the alligator as if it was a fluffy kitten. The victim had spotted the alligator from a friend's porch and was taking pictures of it. She then wanted to pet the alligator. When the victim's friend came outside and saw her down by the pond, seemingly playing with the alligator, she screamed for her to get away. She also screamed that a deer had been eaten by an alligator from the very spot she stood not more than a few days ago. In response, the victim yelled back that she didn't look like a deer. It doesn't really get more ignorant than that. It was just a few seconds later, after making this completely outlandish remark, that the alligator launched itself at the woman, just like it would with a deer. It got her by the leg and was pulling her into the water. By this time, someone had gotten a rope and threw it towards the woman. She managed to get the rope in her hand, but by then she was halfway into the water. Her last words were, "I guess I won't do this again," and then she was gone, savaged underwater by the annoyed alligator. Authorities say as helpers were pulling the rope, the gator started to do its famous roll and Covert lost her grip and she went underwater. Deputies with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and crews with the St. John's Fire Department scanned the pond, but did not see any movement when they arrived. After about 15 minutes, authorities saw her body surface. However, when crews reached Covert, the alligator still had her by the leg and then pulled her back under the water. 4. Nipple attack. A man was in the water just minding his own business when the unthinkable happened. He was only up to his waist, but it was deep enough to be viciously attacked. Luckily for us, he was recording himself with an underwater camera pointed up at his face. In the video, we have a full view of the small fish swimming around his waist and of his chest, the area that was attacked. What seemed to be a completely innocent fish turned out to be demons when one of them lurched out of the water, went at least a foot above the surface, bit the guy's nipple as hard as it could, and then splashed back down and swam away. We don't know exactly where this guy was, so I can't warn you to stay away from the area. But what we do know is nobody is safe anywhere in the water with nipple-biting fish swimming around. I'm not sure if this encounter is scary or hilarious. What do you think? 3. Walrus selfie. A man in China tried to take a selfie with a walrus. If you know anything about the walrus, you'll know it is not a creature that really likes to take selfies. It's also one of the biggest marine mammals in the world. The man who was attacked had been visiting Shishaka Wildlife Park by himself and was busy taking videos and pictures for social media. He came across the walrus. It looked pretty friendly to him, so he started taking pictures with it. That was when the walrus grabbed the man from behind and pulled him into the nearby water pool. One of the witnesses claimed that the walrus had just wanted to play, but considering the walrus weighed around 1.5 tons or 2,500 pounds, it was a bit like playing with a bulldozer in the water. The animal kept the unfortunate businessman submerged, throwing his body around like a paper doll until he eventually died. After the incident, the public was outraged because there hadn't been any kind of barrier between the animal and the public. The deceased man's family was given a handsome payout, though it's not yet clear whether they have installed walls to keep the walrus and the public separated as of yet. Sometimes people forget just how wild and unpredictable animals can be. 2. Fatal sting. A teenager in Australia was recently let off life support just a week after having an unfortunate encounter with a box jellyfish while swimming at the beach in Queensland. According to the BBC, the youngster's death is the first fatality recorded since 2006 in relation to the box jellyfish. This is a creature considered to be the most venomous in the marine world. The box jellyfish has very long tentacles covered in barbs that deliver deadly poison the moment they come into contact with your skin. Once the venom is injected, it leads to cardiac arrest, paralysis, and most often, death. Local authorities say the boy had been swimming near the small town of Bamaga when he was stung. It was so serious that he had to be flown to a faraway hospital and treated, but unfortunately for him and his loved ones, the treatment didn't work. His body simply couldn't handle the venom, and he passed away after a week of being kept alive on machines. 1. Spearfishing fail. A 34-year-old man was spearfishing off the coast of Australia when he ran into a rather ornery shark. The incident happened in 2020, around 200 miles or 320 k's up the coast from the city of Brisbane. The man never even caught any fish. He was just swimming around when the shark attacked him from his blind spot, clamped down on his leg, and ripped the limb into shreds. The shark's teeth did such great damage that it needed only one bite to put the man down for good. He bled out despite being immediately treated by medical professionals. There was simply nothing they could do to stop so much blood pouring out of his body. Unfortunately, there was no word on what type of shark it was. Judging by the shocking lethality of the attack, it was probably a great white or a bull shark.
Number 10. Harpswell shark attack. While swimming with a daughter in mid-2020 off Maine's Bailey Island, New York resident Julie D'Imperio Hollowash died in a vicious shark attack. Good Samaritans and emergency personnel alike worked to get the 63-year-old woman to shore and fought to save her life, but she tragically succumbed to her injuries. Witnesses reported that Hollowash and her daughter were laughing and playing in the water in the moments leading up to the fateful encounter. Suddenly, they saw something breach out of the water, and then they heard the screaming. During the attack, which happened just 60 feet or 18 metres from shore, Hollowash was abruptly pulled underwater. According to NBC 10 Boston, she screamed and thrashed for mere seconds before her body went limp. Scientists identified the attacker as a great white based on a tooth fragment recovered in the ordeal's aftermath. The deadly incident was a highly unusual event, in the words of Patrick Kelleher, the Commissioner of the Maine Department of Resources. It's true that great whites are rarely spotted in Maine, which is at the northern end of their range, but it's also not unheard of for one to be seen in the area, with recorded sightings dating back to the 1800s. Researchers believe that the customary 2 or 3 great white sightings off Maine each year could turn into more in the future due to the warming of the region's waters. Number 9. Tossed like a rag doll. A 64-year-old Florida woman named Adrienne Wixo was attacked by a bull shark in early May while out on her longboard near New Smyrna Beach. Bull sharks are one of the most aggressive sharks in the entire ocean. The shark reportedly grabbed her by the foot and, in her words, wouldn't let go as he emerged above the water and thrashed violently, tossing Wixo like a fish in the process. He refused to let go until she kicked him with a free foot, at which point a friend guided her to shore, leaving a bloody trail in the water behind them. Wixo was rushed to the hospital, where she underwent 4-hour surgery to repair her shredded foot. She's expected to recover, at least physically, but disentangling from the psychological damage may prove more complicated. Wixo, who is a lifelong surfer, is unsure whether she'll ever swim in the ocean again. New Smyrna Beach is a world leader when it comes to the number of shark bites known to occur there. And while most injuries are minor, nobody is immune to the possibility of falling victim to a life-threatening or fatal attack. Bite numbers were uncharacteristically low last year, which experts don't see as a sign that things are improving. Instead, they attribute the lower than usual bite rate to last year's coronavirus pandemic restrictions and life in lockdown. Number 8. A deadly bite. In recent weeks, a surfer died in a suspected shark attack at Tuncurry Beach in New South Wales, Australia, located roughly 186 miles or 300 kilometres north of Sydney. The man, who was in his 50s, had noticed the shark just moments earlier and warned his friends of its presence. In a heartbreaking plot twist, it was he who would perish. His friends rushed over when they saw the attack happening, but their efforts to save the man, along with the help of EMTs, were in vain. After losing massive amounts of blood, he went into cardiac arrest and passed away. The shark had inflicted critical injuries on the victim's upper thigh. Witness Michael Guest told 9 News that emergency personnel did everything they possibly could to revive the man, but to no avail. People reported numerous shark sightings in the days leading up to the horrifying incident. The specimen responsible for killing the surfer is believed to be one of 2 that was seen the day before, one of which measured nearly 15 feet or 4.5 meters long. Civilians and professionals alike responded diligently to the attack, but at the end of the day, nothing could have spared the victim's life, reminding us just how unpredictable and wild these apex predators are. Have you ever seen a shark while swimming in the ocean? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Taking it in their stride. Shark attacks are undoubtedly traumatic encounters. Those that are attacked are often left fearful of ever stepping foot into the ocean again. But a 14-year-old named Parker Blanchett recently offered a different perspective after receiving 100 stitches in the aftermath of a shark attack at North Beach on Kaneohe Marine Corps Base near Honolulu. The 8th grader, who surfed 6 times a week, was riding a wave when a shark bit him in the foot. He felt what he described as a little punch to his leg, and at the first sight of blood, Blanchett immediately paddled ashore. The bite did not last long, about a half a second according to the teen's estimate, and he surmised that the shark was roughly 5.5 feet or 1.7 meters long. Once safely on dry land, Blanchett called his mum, Amanda, and calmly informed her of the incident. His laid-back demeanour helped to keep her calm as emergency personnel treated the wound and transported him to the hospital. Blanchett stayed at the hospital for 2 days and received over 100 stitches. Amanda, originally from Illinois, was inspired by her young son's ability to keep cool in a situation that most people would find utterly terrifying. In reality, the shark bit very close to an artery, and Blanchett was extremely lucky it missed the mark because otherwise the bite may easily have proven fatal. Wise beyond his years, the adolescent acknowledged his awareness that when he goes surfing, he is in the shark's territory. He also said he was eager to heal and get back in the water. This was the first recorded shark attack at North Beach, but staff members weren't surprised by it. Speaking with Fox 59, beach lifeguard supervisor Clark Abbey said given the high volume of sharks that passed through the area and travel there to give birth, that it wasn't a question of if, but when an attack would happen again. Abbey explained that the attack on Blanchett was likely a case of a mistaken identity, that the shark took a bite, realised he wasn't a fish, and continued on with its day. Number 6. Vanished into thin air. Recently, some fishermen saw a shark attack another angler off the Neuville Peninsula, northwest of the capital city of Noumea. Shark attacks off the French territory of New Caledonia in the South Pacific have occurred with alarming regularity so far this year. Emergency and rescue workers searched for the victims but had no luck. Not only did they fail to recover any bodies through an extensive sea and air search, no one was reported missing to police. Witnesses told local newspaper Les Nouvelles Calédoniennes that the attack happened quickly. All they saw, in the words of one observer, was the fins flapping above the water and then nothing more. The local government responded by banning swimming and other water activities in the immediate area for several days while they worked to identify the shark responsible for the attack. Several specimens were captured for autopsy, including a 14-foot or 4.3 metre long tiger shark. At least 2 other people have died in shark attacks off New Caledonia so far this year, and at least 1 person's disappearance remains unexplained, pointing towards an ongoing problem in the region between man and beast. In fact, these numbers are rising globally. Last year, there were 13 recorded fatal shark attacks, spiking from the worldwide annual average of 4. And the speed and swiftness with which the victim in this most recent attack disappeared speaks to how quickly one of these marine predators can end a human life. Makes you think twice about swimming in the ocean. Number 5. Double trouble. A Decatur, Illinois man is grateful for his life after recently being attacked by 2 sharks while on vacation in Belize. Chad Barker and his wife decided to indulge in some thrill-seeking by snorkeling with some nurse sharks, but things didn't go exactly as planned. Less than 30 seconds after entering the water, the current swept Chad into the middle of a shark feeding frenzy and 2 8-foot or 2.4 metre long specimens sank their teeth into his hand. From the time he entered the water to the time he emerged with deep wounds, less than a minute passed. It happened so fast, Barker told news station WAND 17. With no emergency room nearby, he was taken to a local OB/GYN for stitches, where he paid $200 for a reportedly less than good job. Barker decided to finish out the trip despite his injuries. He and his wife actually plan to retire in Belize, suggesting that while the ordeal may have been startling, it fell short of actually traumatising the pair, although Barker admittedly believes that his luck is inherently bad and that a black cloud follows him around. Only 6% of shark attacks worldwide involve snorkelers, making what happened to Barker a rare occurrence. There are even websites and blogs dedicated to telling people that they shouldn't worry about being bitten while vacationing in Belize. But as this shocking encounter proves, one can never be too careful. Number 4. New Zealand's first deadly shark attack in 8 years. In January of this year, a 19-year-old woman was the first person to die in a fatal shark attack in New Zealand in 8 years. Kayla Marlowe was in the water at Waihi Beach when people suddenly heard screaming. A great white shark dragged her into deeper waters. Lifeguards rushed to get Marlowe out of the water, and emergency workers attempted to perform CPR on her for 20 minutes, but their attempts failed. Marlowe suffered fatal injuries to her leg and was pronounced dead at the scene. Meanwhile, swimmers were ordered to get out of the water. At a vigil memorialising Marlowe, local resident Mark Wilson told the press that it was common to see sharks in the area, and that he believes it was only a matter of time before a tragedy like this would happen. Other locals agreed that sharks are often seen in the region, but said the creatures are usually harmless. And the statistics show that they are right. The attack on Marlowe was the first deadly shark encounter in New Zealand in 8 years. Number 3. A close encounter. While spending time on Hawaii's Kalama Beach with her mum in early May, a 6-year-old girl named Anila Resentes had a close encounter with a black-tip shark that could have easily proven fatal. Anila's mother, Shari Guvia, was filming the little girl frolicking in the shallow water when someone yelled, "Shark!" In the video, Anila turns around and sees what appears to be the end of the shark's tail thrashing around before turning and running towards shore. The quick-thinking child likely did herself a favour in doing so and thankfully suffered no injuries. But she only narrowly avoided the shark, and things very easily could have gone wrong. Shark experts told KHON-TV that the specimen that bit Anila was likely in the process of chasing a fish, and that the little girl probably wasn't the animal's target. Unprovoked shark attacks are rare, but they do happen. Stories like this remind us that you don't have to be a shark's target to risk being hurt or killed by one. Number 2. Tourist terror. Late last year, a woman on vacation in the French Caribbean territory of St. Martin was attacked by a shark 500 feet or 150 metres from shore. The woman was swimming in Orient Bay on the northeastern part of the island when the shark swam up and tore her leg off. Unfortunately, she bled out and died on the spot. Shark attacks don't happen very often in St. Martin, according to Florida Program for Shark Research Manager Tyler Bowling, who told CBS News that the only other known unprovoked bite, which was non-fatal, happened in 2005. He also said that out of 34 unprovoked shark bites in the Caribbean since 2000, only 4 were fatal. It's highly unlikely that the woman was killed by a nurse shark, which is the most commonly seen species in the area and considered a non-threat. She was probably attacked by a bull shark or a tiger shark, which occasionally pass through these waters, although they are usually not a threat to humans either, according to shark researcher Mike Heithaus. Gavin Naylor, Program Director of the International Shark Attack File, told Associated Press that most shark attacks in the Caribbean occur around the Bahamas due to its high levels of tourism, pointing out the correlation between the number of people in the water and the number of attacks that tend to happen. But deadly encounters are still, in Naylor's words, pretty unusual in that part of the world. Number 1. A rerouted encounter. A little over a year ago, in May 2020, 26-year-old California native Ben Kelly was fatally attacked by a shark while surfing at Manresa State Beach in Santa Cruz County, roughly 300 feet or 91 metres from shore. The shark bit the man's knee, puncturing an artery and a vein. Emergency personnel rushed to the scene where Kelly was pronounced dead. While the species that killed Kelly remains undetermined, researchers noticed that the number of great whites in the area was increasing, leading them to believe that a great white migration was underway when the tragedy occurred. Their unexpected presence falls in line with sightings of sharks in unusual areas in recent years. Patch reported that in the summer of 2015, scientists noticed that great whites who normally migrate to Mexico were hanging around in SoCal, suggesting that warming waters are affecting where they choose to go. These new seasonal destinations, particularly those that are northerly, are concerning to researchers who wrote that they are primarily worried about the potential conflict with commercial fisheries, conservation of protected species, and public safety. Thanks for watching. What do you think of these crazy shark attacks? Do you know anyone that was attacked by a shark? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.